but she's never behind him. And so this Proverbs chapter 31, I think this morning is very befitting for the day that we have set aside today. And I got some other places that we're going to read, but I think one of the greatest assets that any church could have, that any community could have, that any home could have, is the blessing of a good, godly, virtuous woman. And so in Proverbs chapter 31, if you would, come down with me to verse 10. And I'm going to read this differently than I normally would on a Sunday morning, because I want to start with these as I go through these, and then we've got some other places this morning that we're going to turn and read for just a few minutes. In Proverbs chapter 31, in verse 10, he said, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies." You hear what he said here? For who can find a virtuous woman? When I think of the word virtuous, I think of something that is morally right, morally sound, of good character, of good judgment. And we're going to go through some of these this morning. She is somebody that has her head on right. She's somebody that is not flighty. She's not giddy. She's not, she is a morally sound woman. Somebody of character. Somebody of principle. Somebody that understands who God is, and somebody that understands the necessity of a good, moral, sound character. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. This woman is set aside not only for her moral standing, but she is also to be set aside for her value. Her value. And I know this morning in the building we got a lot of young men that's in the building this morning, and some of you are maybe not yet, but soon will be. Some of you are maybe in the process of looking out for you a wife. What I'm going to read to you on down here is the qualities in a wife that you need to seek. Anybody can have a woman. Anybody can have somebody, that is just a woman. But to have a wife. The Bible said that a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And once you get to where I'm at, maybe, and some of these other men in the building, that is something that we should have learned on the front end of this, and not on the back end of it. That a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. Somebody of value. Somebody of moral character. That is a good thing. It is said a lot of times, and I don't necessarily want to go down this side of it, but they said one time, or it has been said, that a woman can either make her husband or break her. And while I understand that, if we can understand on the front end how valuable she is and how set apart that she is to be, a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And he goes on to tell some of the reasons why. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her. Years and years ago, a long time ago now, I used to have a job working at the Chevron boat plant in Collins. And there was this man, he worked for the county. And somewheres around 4:30 or 5 o'clock, somewhere along in there, he would come in at the end of the day, about every 3 or 4 days, he would come in and he would bring the county truck in for me to fill up with diesel. And what he was doing is he was coming in at the end of the day to fill up his truck so he could go back and, start his work morning the next day. And so I'd see him coming, and I'd go out to the pump, and I'd put the fuel in his truck, and I'd go back inside, and I'd write up a ticket. And just not every time, but just about every time, he said, well, I got to hurry up and get home now. He said, one of these days when I get there, he said, I'm going to catch Jody. I got to hurry up and get home so I can catch Jody. Some of you know what I'm talking about. He said, I got to hurry up and get home so I can catch the man that's with my wife. Now, he was probably just joking about that, One of these days I'm going to get home and I'm going to catch him. That is not what he's talking about here. He said the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her. Now that's the kind of woman you young men need. That you can safely trust in her. That you can know that while you're out doing all that husbands and fathers are supposed to do, that you can come and you can fully trust in her. Not only just with the moral end of it, but with everything that it takes to run a home. The Bible said, so that he would have no need of spoil. Now, when you think about spoil, that's kind of like a military term. When an army would go in and they would take over another army, all this stuff that's left behind, that was the spoil. All of the garments and all of the stuff that's left in the camp, that's the spoil. And what the army would do is after they conquered, they would come in and they would gather all this spoil and they take it back to their camp. Well, see, you got a virtuous woman. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her. He hath no need of spoil. He knows what she has been placed over, that she's going to take care of it. She's not going to be somebody that wasted. He's a husband that is going to not have to find himself in want. And so that's why her price is far above rubies. That's why her value is such exquisite. And so this morning the question that I'm asking us is, what value has she been or is she to even this church this morning? To our communities and to our homes. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Proverbs tells us that for a man to have a good wife, that it is a crown unto him. Now he's not talking about here like, a trophy wife. Something like you'd kill and just hang on the wall somewhere. But he understands and he appreciates her. And he goes on down and he said, she would do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. I mean, this woman she's industrious. She's resourceful. And here again, I want you to understand what I'm fixing to tell you. I have heard some men talk about their wives as being a ball and chain, Got to get home to the ball and chain. That's not what he's talking about here. This woman is industrious. This woman is resourceful. She don't throw it out the back door as soon as he brings it in the front door. She's not one of these that we would consider to be high maintenance, She is a woman that is highly to be favored. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maids. She considereth the field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hand she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strength in her arms. She perceived that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. Now there's more here than I can get to. You know, I can remember when me and Jennifer first started out. I mean, it was tough back then. I made the statement before how it was just week to week, and a lot of times it was more month at the end of the money. And the Lord blessed what He provided us with. And I have watched her manage that and just stretch it and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. And I know now that it was the blessings of God. I understand that. But I saw her take, and you men can understand this same thing with the wives that God has blessed you with. And you can see how God through her has just blessed the household. And the household has prospered. It's not that, you know, he can brag or she can brag, because they are one. I'm going to read this to you in a minute. Because they are one, they have come together and they are pulling this load together and they are bearing the load together. And he has stopped and he has appreciated the value that this wife and mother has been to this union. Talks about how she goes out and she considers a field and she buys it. I mean, she's industrious. She is not wasteful. She takes what she has and she uses that. How many of you men, when you go home at night, you go to bed, or maybe you come in and you sit down in your recliner, and when you get there, the wife has the meal fixed. The wife has the children already. And basically, you know, the man comes in, he sits down, and she brings him the meal. Somebody said one time that a man's work is from sun to sun. And you ladies are well acquainted with the rest of this. But the woman's work is never done. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. There'd be a lot of mornings I'd get up. I would never hear the baby crying. Brother Warren Jennifer did. There'd be a lot of nights she'd just let me sleep. And she'd get up and she'd go tend to the babies. Have you ever noticed about that too? When the babies are back here in the bedroom and they're sick or whatever, most time they're always going to call out, Mama. And Mama's going to rise up and Mama's going to go see to them babies. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. Strength and honor are her clothing. There are some words that I looked up about this verse. Strength and honor. And I'm no Greek scholar, and I probably need to learn a little more Hebrew. But the words that I looked up for this are, and I wrote them down, are dignity and respect. Dignity and respect. This woman that her price is far above rubies. This woman that, you know, God understood this man's not going to be good by himself. That she has all these qualities, all these virtues about her. And one of them is dignity and respect. Could you imagine the value of that? And we came this morning to having a wife that has dignity and respect. Not only with you, but even in the community. When this woman is thought of, she is thought of with dignity and respect. When she is seen out in the public, wherever she's at, she is considered to be a woman of dignity and respect. She's not like the woman in Proverbs chapter 7. But this woman is saw as a virtuous woman. This woman is saw as someone that has dignity and respect and honor about her. She is one that commands her household and her children. She is one that is in her tongue is the law of kindness. She is someone that has wisdom and honor and respect. So boys, when you go out and you seek a wife, this is what you need. So you need to try to find. He goes on down and he says, she opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She is somebody that is of sound judgment. She is somebody that is wise. The Bible tells us for the older to teach the younger. There are some of you that's in the building this morning that have learned some things from some of those that have went before you. Some of you this morning have learned some of the traits, not only just the domestic things that you have learned, but some of the moral character that you have learned, some of the laws of wisdom and kindness. There was some woman that came ahead of you, your mother, your grandmother, maybe some of these here connected to Candleline over through the years, that has been that great example for us. And I'm going to go through some of these with us in just a minute. But can you hear what he's saying here? Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Her husband is known in the gates. He shall have no need of spoil. While he is gone, what he has left at home with her is safe. While he is at night in the bed asleep, she is still up, going and doing only what a mother and a wife can do. Men are not geared for babies. When ours was small, I'd go to work, as you men do, would go to work and leave the wife at home with the babies. They are wiping noses. They're wiping behinds. They are fixing the plates. They are washing the clothes. They are picking up the toys. They deal with that all day. And so one of the things that I had to learn as a husband was that I had been out all day and I have had adult conversation. I've been out with other men having adult conversation. I've been out in the workplace having adult conversation. Well, after I have talked all day and I've come home, I may just sit down and be quiet a while. I'm just about talked out. And one of the problems as a man that God has had to help me with is that she's had baby conversation all day. And she needs some adult conversation. Men aren't geared that way. Men just are not, in a general sense, geared that way. I mean, they can handle all the crying better than we can. They can handle all the spit up and the throw up and all that better than we can. How many times does she have to go and pick up them same toys every day? How many times does she have to divide Junior and Susie? Women are geared. They are that nurturer, that nesting type thing. And men, we need to stop and to appreciate that. And that is what this day has been set aside for. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. I'm going to read the last verse in just a minute. Can you hear what he's saying here? Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. I did not know this until yesterday. But it is still a Jewish custom today that a man, he would come in on Friday evening and he would either quote this psalm, he would read it to her, or he would sing her this psalm on Friday evening. It is still a Jewish custom today. That he would come in and he would get his Bible and he would sit down and he would read this, or read this to their wives every Friday, so that she could understand how valuable that she is to him. How important she is to him. How that she's not somebody that is just taken for granted. Then the last verse, or the 30th verse. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. It's not so much the outside beauty. She's not just pretty on the outside, but she's pretty on the inside. It's not all about outward. It's about inward too. Then the verse 30. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. This woman is to be rewarded for all of her labors. Men, when is the last time that you took your wives out? I'm serious with this now. When is the last time that you just called her off to the side and you told her how beautiful she was and how thankful you are for her? When's the last time you just laid all of your stuff down? And while you might not have took the, Proverbs 31 and read it to her, when is the last time that you set aside a special time for her? We may leave the children with grandma. We may get somebody to come in and watch the children for a while, because tonight is your night. This is your time. I am so afraid a lot of us have failed to acknowledge who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. I saw a little old cartoon one time, and we say this to be funny, but I'm so afraid there may be so many of us that had come to this place. This man got up and, the wife had the coffee fixed and she had the breakfast fixed and she had all the backpacks packed for school and she had all the, stuff lined up for the children and had them ready to go. And he got up and got his cup of coffee and his breakfast and just about, gobbled it all down and just put everything and just started out. And she said, hadn't you forgot something? Hadn't you forgot something? Well, he had his, all of his stuff. No, I don't get, What have I forgot? And she said, you forgot to kiss me and tell me how much you love me. And he said, I kissed you when we got married. I told you then that I loved you. If it ever changes, I'll let you know. Aren't we that way sometime? Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Now, I started to tell you I'm not throwing rocks at you, but maybe I am with this. And you take it now in the attitude that I want to give it. There's something I've noticed at County Line. This could be said at my home church. This could probably be said in any church that I've ever pastored. A lot of times in revival I've noticed this. And it is a shame on us men for this now. Who is it that gets up in the morning, on Sunday morning now, and gets the babies together and gets them to Sunday school? It's mothers. That is a mark against us as men. Who is it on like revival? I know a lot of times, the men are going to understand that. But in the morning before you leave, do you help her get everything together? So she can get them babies to church, revival morning? When you get up in the morning and you're going to start out for work, and you understand, we got church this week. We got revival this week. We got Sunday school Sunday morning. We got prayer meeting Wednesday night. I mean, more times than not, it is the wife, the mother that bears the burden of getting them up and getting them dressed and getting them to church. Men, that is a mark against us. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. And this morning again, we need to stop, not only just today, but to appreciate what God has blessed us with in good wives and good mothers, to what they have meant here at County Line and even to the community. Because what verse 31 says, give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Let me give you another one. Turn to Ephesians chapter 5, if you would. Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians 5. Verse 25. Hebrews 5. Verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. How's a man to love his wife? As Christ loved the church. How much did Christ love the church? To what lengths did he go to show his love for his bride? To what pain did he go? What did he give up? What was his thing in giving up? As Christ loved the church, even so let a man love his wife. Then he uses another word, and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. Something that is sanctified is something that is set apart. This is set apart. While there are a lot of women in the world, this one is set apart. I don't love nobody like I love you. I don't put nothing in the place that you hold. My heart belongs only to you. You think about what that's saying now. Sanctified it, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot nor wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord, the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. This is what I was talking about a while ago. Where they come together, and they're serving one God. They have one purpose. They have one goal. They have one desire. Who can find a virtuous woman for her price? is far above rubies. I'm not going to turn and read you a lot of these other ones. Let me just mention them to you right quick. I'll be here for a long time. We could go back to the book of 1 Samuel. And the Bible talks about a woman there named Hannah. And I could only imagine maybe, how Hannah felt in that day of seeing all these other women. And for whatever reason, the Lord so far had closed up her womb that she wasn't allowed to have a child. The time come that she is going to have a child. And she goes down to the temple. The Bible says, when Eli comes out, he looks at her. And he thinks maybe her to be drunk. And she says, no, I'm not drunk. She said, and I underlined this in my Bible when I read it. She said, for this child, I prayed. I prayed. Man, what does it mean to have a wife that while we're out doing all that we're doing, and we're kind of taking her for granted, and we're not setting her apart as she needs to be, and we've kind of just looked for her to do it, how many of those same women have took us to the Lord? How many of those same women have sat down and maybe they've been the ones that have led devotion with the children? They have been the one that maybe has went in at night and by their bed has prayed with them and prayed for them and carried your name and my name to the Lord. I'm not telling you tonight or this morning that men can't pray. But I am asking us this morning, what does it mean? What is it, the value of a home, of a marriage, of a church, of a community? To have a woman that carries us to the Lord. I hope I get my numbers right now. I may not, but I think it's in the book of Luke chapter 2 where the Bible talks about Anna, a woman that was a widow, was it of 84 years maybe? And the Bible talked about how that she was constantly going down to the temple in fasting and praying. You know where we are today at County Line? We are where we are today because I believe there has been and are some women that is constantly fasting and praying and taking this church to the Lord. Some of you know them. Some of you remember them. And all I'm asking this morning is, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. It come time for, Israel, or the Israelites. They're in trouble. You remember Haman has come and he has gotten all built up in himself and he has gotten proud and he now has this scheme that he's going to just totally do away with all the Jews. Mordecai comes in, and here's Esther. And he says, listen, you have got to go in, and you have got to entreat the king on behalf of your people. And she said, I ain't been called. I have not went into the king now for these 30 days. And you don't just go into the king. But you remember what he said? Deliverance is going to come. It is going to come. But who knows but what God has put you here, not here for such a time as this. You remember the statement? You and your men, you go fast, you go pray. Me and my maids, we're going to go fast, we're going to go pray. And she said, I'm going in. And she said, if I perish, I perish. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. I won't call the man's name because I'm not sure about this, but I think I remember who told me this. This pastor had a lady that died, and it was said of her, of what just a fine, godly Christian example this woman was. And so he's down at the casket, and they are viewing the body. And some of the the men come down and said, wouldn't it be good if we had a lot of women like this in the church? And according to what the pastor told me, somebody made the comment, said we would if we had more Abrahams. You understand what I'm getting at? Have we come to the place to forget who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? Here's a city that's going to be destroyed. And here's this woman. And this woman makes a plea for her family. This woman makes a plea for those that she loves. This woman has a burden for these that she cares about. And so she tells those spies, she said, listen, I know what your God is going to do. I know how your God has went out and destroyed all these other cities and their kings and their rulers. She said, when you come back, she said, I want you to spare my family. You remember what they told Rahab? Well, you go out and you get them all. And you bring them in this place. And you put them here. This one, all I'm asking is, what was she worth to that family? Did she go out and tell them about, this is the place of safety? Destruction is coming and you need to come and be here. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Thought about Mary. Thou hast found favor, highly favored in the sight of God. Willing just to be submissive. According to thy handmaid, be it according to thy will, be it unto thy handmaid. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. While men are to lead, while men are to be the head. I read something one time, and I think used this here not too long ago, but if I did, if you'll just bear with me, let me use it again. Where the Bible talked about that God created them equal. But then the Bible also says that the husband is to acknowledge her as the weaker vessel. The weaker vessel. Now that does not mean that she is weaker in intelligence. That does not what that means. That does not mean that in any necessarily physical way that she is weaker than him. But let him to acknowledge her as the weaker vessel. I read this, and I'm not going to take credit for it, but as the weaker vessel. Sometimes when the children and the grandchildren come over, we got a little thing in the utility room, and that's where we keep all of the solo cups, the paper cups, the styrofoam plates, the plastic spoons and forks and the napkins. And so we'll come and we'll get all that out. The paper plates. Sometimes we have, if it's just me and Jennifer, there during the week, we got a cabinet, and we can go and we get that cabinet, and we got some Corelle, some of the Corelle plates. And this is kind of, it's not really Tupperware. It's a little above Tupperware. It's Corelle. Sometimes we'll eat off of that. But then back in the back of the cabinet, there's some fine china. This china is set apart. You don't use the fine china when the grandbabies come over. You use Tupperware for that. You don't use the fine china when company comes around. We probably use the Corelle plates for that. but the fine china. It is weaker because it's more precious. It is weaker because it's more valuable. It is weaker because it is set apart for a particular thing. So ought a man to love his wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Now this morning, if I hadn't said it enough, I'm going to say it one more time. Who can find a virtuous woman